I'd like to talk to you about my son's employment. It's an employment matter. He was told on Friday that by the HR person that he would be given a new contract of employment, and that she would like him to sign it. And amongst other things, what would be changed would be the notice period for leaving would be changed from 1 month to 2 months.
Is that the notice he gets or the notice he has to give?
The notice he has to give.
Okay.
We don't know what the notice he gets is, but I think they're very happy with him and they want him to stay. But yes, are they allowed to do that?
What does your son do?
He's a manager for a clinic, a dairy and science laboratory, which amongst other things.
How long has he worked for the clinic, for the laboratory?
He's worked there for over a year now.
Has he worked there for 2 years yet?
Not yet,
okay.
No.
So I'm afraid they are entitled to do this, Anna.
Okay.
Any employer is entitled to say, in the same way an employee is entitled to say, I don't want to stay working for you on these terms, you either change them or I'm going to leave and go elsewhere. Any employer is entitled to say, I don't want you to continue working for me on these terms, we're going to change them, you either sign up or we'll part company. Now, if they do that, they've got to give notice. So whatever his notice period is, he has to get it if he decides not to sign the new contract and stay. If he had more than 2 years' employment, you've probably heard the phrase fire and rehire before, which is what this ultimately is. If he had more than 2 years' employment, he could potentially bring a claim for unfair dismissal for the fire and rehire on new terms if the company was acting unreasonably. But because he hasn't got 2 years' employment, he can't, I'm afraid, threaten or bring a claim of unfair dismissal. Now, one important point, Anna, is that although they might be asking him to give 2 months' notice, it's very difficult for them to enforce a 2-month notice clause. Okay. And I would also go back to them, get your son to go back to them and say, look, I don't want to sign a 2-month notice clause. I've only worked for you for a year, unless you're willing to commit to a similar notice period for me. And I suspect if they want him that much, like you say, if he's as good as you tell me he is, and I'm sure he is, they'll probably back down because they'll want him to stay and they won't want him to leave.